Hello and welcome to this edition of Political Smackdown. I'm Betsy Wells, your host, and we have our regular crew with us. We have Mike Philbeck to my right, Andy Dedman to my right, and Wes Westmoreland to my left.
But on the right.
But whatever. Anyway, thank y'all for being with us and for sharing this moment, these next few minutes with us. We hope you have some fun and maybe you'll learn something. But we're going to start with something. Perhaps you've noticed that the American flags are flying at half-mast this week. This is to note the passing of country music icon Dolly Parton. Dolly passed away in Nashville on August 25th at the age of 80. We have lost not only a country singer and a major songwriter, but also a true Christian spirit who used her wealth without regards to self-promotion or notoriety. Andy, what about her construction of Dollywood?
Well, she actually bought one that was existing there called the Silver Dollar Amusement Park, something like that. In fact, a little bit of trivia, it was used on Beverly Hillbillies back in the day when they went to color. And they had at least one or two shows there. I always thought that was fascinating. But I've never been to Dollywood, but everything I have heard the people have that, it is just a phenomenal place. I mean, akin to Disney World. And that's pretty high praise any way you cut it. She was amazing that she was so just concerned about her people in her home county to make sure that they had good paying jobs, that they were consistent, because she saw how jobs were in Seaverville. I mean, there was nothing. I mean, mainly just maybe timber at one time, not even coal mine or anything like that. There just wasn't anything. And she felt that it was on her shoulders to do something to create ongoing paying jobs for her people that they could support themselves. And she did this with Dollywood. There's no doubt about that. She just opened one of her own brand of truck stops. In fact, I think that was the last public appearance she made back in June. I guess it's going to be akin to a Buc-ee's, and goodness knows we all know how that attracts people. It's just amazing. I do like their brisket though.
I do too.
But it's terrible to see a loss of somebody of her magnitude. This reminds me, Betsy, of when Elvis died.
Okay.
It is so close to that. You don't really know how much somebody's loved till they're gone. And she had, I mean, when you had the band at Buckingham Palace playing 9 to 5, I mean, my goodness, I mean, who would have ever thought that? So when you get down to it, she lived her life the way she wanted to live it, and the way she did helped who knows how many people. And not only just entertainment, but actually teaching people how to read, how to have a good paying job, and how to conduct themselves and be proud of who they were.
She was one of 12 children born into a house that did not have electricity or indoor plumbing. She was like the fourth child. She knew poverty, and yet, and she wrote about it and a lot of things that she experienced. But every time you saw her on TV, and she always was so full of joy. Wes, what do you think?
Well, I never was a big fan of Dolly, but I always respected her and the way that she always remembered her roots, whether it was work in the community, creating Dollywood and all the jobs and everything that came with it, or whatever. And like Cash and Jennings, Haggard, she was such a distinctive stylist, at least with her voice. You heard that voice, you knew exactly who it was. If voice, maybe not music to the extent that the others were, and of course we're not far from losing another one. Willie Nelson's not destined to be around long, and there's nobody really, it seems to me, filling those shoes now. But I guess her greatest legacy is this imagination library that she started as a tribute to her father. To date, and I pulled up the numbers yesterday, she's somewhere north of 332 million books that she sent out in the U.S., Australia, the United Kingdom, Ireland, and Canada. In fact, their website says in America alone, 1 in 6 children under the age of 5 receive her books every year. That's staggering. Staggering. And of course recognizes you learn to read so you can read to learn. And how many children has that made a difference to over the years, and will continue to now upon her death?
And we had a group here in Cleveland County for a while that was sending out the books for Imagination Library. Jackie Blounton, I remember from up in Polkville, was spearheaded that. All right, Mike, what else? What do you have to say about Miss Dolly?
Well, you asked me to talk about her donation to Vanderbilt University in 2020 in April, not but a month or so after we got into the pandemic for COVID. She donated $1 million to the Vanderbilt University Medical Center to help develop COVID research, and it funded the early laboratory stuff of that. So she was a benefactor. Wes, one of the reports I read estimated that she's worth $650 million at death, but had given away $500 million. A large portion of it was for the Imagination Library. So she was a benefactor of enormous proportions. Let me talk about something serious. She was loved across the political spectrum.
She was.
Twice during Trump's first term, he tried to give her the Presidential Medal of Freedom Award, the highest civilian honor a president can give a civilian. First time her husband was sick and she told him no. The second time she wouldn't travel because of COVID. Then when Joe Biden was president, he offered to give it to her, and at that point she said that she didn't think it would look right if she didn't do it for one party to do it for the other, because she always wanted to be not political. She went out of her way to stay out of politics. In fact, I guess, Betsy, this is the one Dolly thing I can remember that I heard her say on one of her broadcasts is, somebody asked her, was she ever going to run for public office? And she said, no, we have enough boobs in politics.
Oh, Mike.
Well, she said it.
Yes.
That's what she
Well,
said.
I've got one. All right,
did.
I've got to outdo you on that
Oh.
one, Mike. There was a time, it seems like that drag queens loved her. They really did. She was in San Diego one time. She went and entered into a drag queen contest. She lost, and it was for a Dolly Parton lookalike, and she lost. She said that was humbling, to say the least.
And she probably laughed about it every
She
time
did.
she talked about
She
it.
did.
Let me mention two more things
Okay,
briefly,
go
if you
ahead,
don't mind.
Mike.
Number one is she wrote her most famous song, I guess, I Will Always Love You, in 1973, and on the same date she wrote her other really, really famous song, Jolene. And people say that was the best songwriting date in American history, at least. But when Whitney, and that was in 73, and 92, when Whitney Houston, and was it Kevin Costner did The Bodyguard, that became the theme song of that, and Dolly made over $10 million in royalties off of just Whitney Houston's recording of it. And the way she spent that money was she bought her big office complex in Nashville, and this is what she said: I bought a property, this was with that money earned from Whitney Houston's recording, I bought a property in what was a black area of town, was mostly black families that lived around it, was off the beaten path from 16th Avenue. She said, I'm going to buy this place, renovated it, Said it's the perfect place for B to me, and she said that because Whitney was African American and Whitney had made that happen, she thought it was only appropriate that some of it be invested, or a lot of it, in downtown Nashville. So she was quite a giving person, and certainly she will be missed.
She will be missed. She's one of the few people that you know just by her first name. You know, she met Carl Dean on her first days in Nashville when she came at 18 at the Wishy-Washy Laundromat, and they married. He stayed in the background, and they were married over 60 years. She's one of those people that she just smiled. She loved, and her famous lines too, she would always talk about, you know, she had all this work done and all this beauty treatment, and she says, you know, it takes a lot of money to look this cheap. And everybody would laugh, but we certainly will miss Dolly, and she certainly has led the way for people to be given with their money and their talent and their treasure to help other people. Dolly, rest in peace. All right, now we're going to move on to President Trump. He continues his war against mail-in ballots, which was to be used in the upcoming November 3rd general election. He signed recently a president order pertaining to the limits. The Supreme Court ruled this week in his favor. What happened, and how does it affect Cleveland County, and has anything happened today? Andy, you start.
Well, when it gets down to it, really and truly, basically he was telling the post office to find out where this is supposed to go and have a list of people that should be getting them. Now, how in the world is the post office going to be able to get a list that is going to be straight and honest?
Well, they say they've got it.
Well, I mean, yeah, but they say they can get my Wall Street Journal from Gastonia to Shelby every day too. Yeah, good luck with that. I mean, I just don't see that they've got the wherewithal and the manpower to do it. I just don't see it, because I've always been not a big fan of the mail-in ballot for that very reason. I mean, I just can't trust the U.S. mail to get something this important to them. I just don't think we can. I mean, I don't think we need to be really restrictive of it, because there's some people that's all they got. I mean, you've got people overseas, you've got military overseas, you've got diplomats, you've got expatriates that live all over the world. They're still American citizens, so they need to be able to exercise their franchise. So there is a place for it, but I just don't know that this is the way to handle it.
Okay, Wes, what you got to say?
Well, it's a long way from a done deal. It's sort of funny, Betsy, how the Constitution matters sometimes and sometimes it doesn't. A few years ago, it didn't matter at all to Dr. Fauci, and then a few weeks ago, it became very important. This week, it seems to matter again to the left, and we keep hearing about the Constitution, Article 1, Section 4, it's up to the states, and that's correct. That's the problem that Trump's going to have going forward, getting this to pull off. But what the court actually said this week was they have no standing. There's been no harm, therefore there can't be a lawsuit. That simple. They didn't rule on whether or not this should be done. Just yesterday, the Democrats and other voting rights groups refiled the lawsuit to comply with that ruling. And the Obama-appointed judge, same judge, has issued a temporary restraining order blocking it for 14 days. I don't think this is going to happen before the midterms. I don't think there's time. Andy, the post office does similar with other lists. I think there's a way to handle it, but I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon.
All right, Mike,
Well,
what do you think?
it all came about as a result of all the rules that were changed during COVID and so much more mail-in and waiting so much longer after the election. And to this day, just to use the most extreme example, you can't sell an election in the most populous state in the region within a month. And that is ridiculous, and something needs to be done about it. You don't outlaw mail-ins, but you got to have some rules and regulations. And Wes, how you do that in light of that article in the Constitution is a dilemma. And the Supreme Court will ultimately decide it. But I look for them to, again, make some other ruling. But I think what winds up happening is little happens this year, but there's time to try to settle it before the 28 election.
Betsy, I
right.
know we're short on time, but I want to give Mike an answer. The way this happens, just like the way we have 55-mile-an-hour speed limits. This week, Department of Homeland Security says it's going to require states seeking Homeland Security grants to conduct random post-election manual counts of paper ballots. You get federal money, you got to comply by the federal rules no matter what the Constitution says. That's how it's going to happen.
And we're getting ready, and on that, we'll leave this subject. We'll talk more about it later, but now we need to go to break. Come back and be with us for the second half of Political Smackdown.
Tune in to Senior Moments here on C19 TV. I am Jackie Sibley Newton with Terabella Assisted Living. Whether you are a senior planning for your own future or helping someone make decisions, Senior Moments has got information to share. We talk about the wealth of services, activities, and healthy living options available to you here in our area. That's Senior Moments on C19 and also on C19.tv.
Join us for our 24th season of Armchair Quarterback on C19 TV. Each week we look at the 4A Burns Bulldogs, the 5A Crest Chargers, the 6A Kings Mountain Mountaineers, and the 3A Shelby Golden Lions. We will also discuss ACC, SEC, and Gardner-Webb football, along with the Carolina Panthers. Watch all season long on C19 TV or streaming online at C19.tv.
Welcome back to this edition of Political Smackdown, and we were finishing up on President Trump and mail-in ballots, which I'm sure we'll talk more about. And I too agree that we don't have a lot of time to do anything before the November election. But going on, we're going to talk about food. What's going on about President Trump and one of our main foods, beef? All of you know that I have beef cattle on my farm on Dixon School Road. Wes, I know you too. And this is dear to my heart and dear to the farmers that are around me. So, Mike, will you begin? What's going on about beef with President Trump?
Well, on Wednesday of the week, we're taping on Friday after that, he formally increased the amount of foreign beef that can enter the U.S. at a lower tariff rate by 300,000 metric tons. 100,000 September, 100,000 October, 100,000 November, and he says because of shortage of supply in the U.S. that it's causing the price to be too high for, quote, average people to afford. Interestingly enough, he has got the Republican legislators from the Midwest up in arms about it because he is going to make their ability to charge more or less by importing cheaper foreign beef, at least allegedly. It's going to always be a problem. But Andy, I just heard this morning Trump's issuing an executive order just for Wes today.
What's that?
Wes has got to start buying grass-fed beef instead of corn-fed beef.
Oh my goodness. He'll become a vegetarian if that's the case.
Not quite, but
All right.
Go ahead.
Andy, what you going to... No, we'll let Wes talk. Wes,
He's got to
go
gather
right
his thoughts
ahead.
on that one.
yeah, give me a minute. Last October, Trump posted on Truth Social, cattle ranchers don't understand that the only reason they're doing so well for the first time in decades is because I put tariffs on cattle coming into the United States, including 50% tariff on Brazilian beef. If it wasn't for me, they'd be doing just as they've done for the past 20 years. Terrible. But it would be nice if they would understand that they have to get their prices down. So then he announced he was going to flood the market with cheap grass-fed Mike beef from Argentina, just like Jimmy Carter did in the 70s. Took the industry years to recover from that. The reality is roughly 70% of the increase in beef costs has been caused by economic-wide inflation, often caused by the government influx of paper dollars into the economy, wars of choice, tariffs, and drought. Less than a year ago, after Trump started this first round of tariffs, he sent farmers a $12 billion bailout in response to the temporary trade market disruption caused by increased production costs by his trade wars. There's some lessons here, Betsy. First lesson, tariffs increase costs, period. By cutting tariffs to lower the price of beef, Trump has ultimately conceded that tariffs raise the cost for consumers. Second lesson, short term, this will have a nominal impact on anything, despite the president's promise of a 25% cheaper beef. 300,000 tons represent less than 2% of the annual U.S. beef consumption. Final lesson, the shortage is in the herds. Due to the drought, the screwworm, cost of grain, processing, transportation, inflation, all these things. Current cow inventory is the lowest it's been since the 1950s. Protectionism won't fix that. Flooding the market with cheap, low-quality, grass-fed beef for 90 days doesn't restore the herds. Grass-fed is not the same product. Only a stable market driven by profit will get us where we need to be with the herds. Protectionism won't get us there. We've got to get the government out of the marketplace.
All right, Andy?
All I can say is amen, brother. I mean, let's face it, grass-fed is not the same product as corn-fed. It just isn't. And the problem that we've got is like Wes said, I mean, the main thing is drought. That is what's hurt more than anything. The cattle producers have had to sell off their herds. It's gone to the slaughterhouse. That has went, and for a while, I mean, just flooded the market. Now the herds are next to no exist. Same thing happened in the 80s, Wes, with dairy cows. I mean,
again, the government's the one that got rid of all the dairy cows.
Right, and so there we are with that problem. So I just don't think, I think it shows that foreign policy cannot be made from Washington. And it's a problem with that. And then you've got Argentina, which has been, I don't know why we've imported over the years so much from there. I really don't, but we have. And I just, to me, I don't understand it really, to be honest, Wes. We have got so many different problems here, and bringing in something like, especially that with the North American screwworm like it is, that is just, that's as bad as mad cow disease.
That impacts the live cattle, and that's what
it does.
Yeah.
Well, that's as bad
to
as
the depletion in the herds, particularly in the Southwest.
That's as bad as mad cow disease. I mean, it just decimates the herd.
Well, and you have got, I know like along my road, and I look as I drive up and down Dixon School Road, and I know a diminished number of cows, but yet I see more calves being born. So hopefully it will be replenished, but you can't take a calf and have it full grown in 1 year.
You don't do it in 90 days.
No, that's for sure.
This ain't chickens.
And and China, there was some a concern from China. They refused the whole shipment of this beef. Now, it may not have been the total beef that came into America, but it might have been part of it. And yet now we have less food checkers because of the decrease in government with the FDA. And so it's a big concern. And who's going to feed America? And we all love beef. Well, most of us love beef, and especially those of us that grow it. But it's a concern, and so we definitely need to look at it. And yet, hopefully, I know, Wes, I'd like to think that we keep the government out, but I have seen times where the government really helped the farmers. Remember, I grew up in Ashe County, where tobacco was our main source of income. But we'll talk more about this. Go ahead, Wes.
The problem, even with tobacco, was the government getting involved in the first place, causing a problem that required a bailout.
Well, Jesse Helms would disagree with you on that one.
Jesse's turning over in his
Jesse
grave.
said if you leave it alone, he'll leave it alone.
Yeah, he said if he'll ever quit picking on tobacco, he'll quit voting for tobacco
The wall of
subsidies.
separation that we hear so much about between government and religion should be even broader and wider when it comes to economics. The government has no business in the marketplace.
Other than making it safe. All right, well, moving on. We're going to go.
Spoken like a true liberal Republican.
Oh, listen to you. All right, we're going to go to Cleveland County to conclude our program today. There have been two areas in the county that have changed speed limit signs. One's Boiling Springs, and then there's a safety plan near the Atrium Shelby Hospital. Wes, what's going on with speed limits?
Well, quickly, they're going to drop the speed from 35 to 25 in Boiling Springs, north part of town on 150. You know, a lot of entrances and exits. It'll just slow things down a little bit. At the hospital on Crawford Street, I think they'll put in a speed bump maybe promote a crosswalk, 2 speed bumps. And this was requested by the hospital, and all the neighbors signed off on it, so hopefully it'll make things safer.
All right, Andy.
Well, the main thing, the reason why Atriums wants it is most of the parking for employees is across the street on Crawford Street. So that's a safety issue as much as anything else. As far as in Boiling Springs, I don't know how you're gonna slow it down too much, because unless you're right in downtown Boiling Springs, but that's about the only place it slows down.
I remember
really.
even when I was in college, when you hit the town limits of Bowling Springs, just beyond the cemetery going to Bowling Springs on 150, it went to 35. And there was always a Bowling Springs PD out there catching some college
better
student that
slow
was a day
down.
student, and I was one of them one time. And so it's always been 35, and now I guess it's going to the edge of town on 150 to be 25. So
25.
there'll be even more tickets if they strictly enforce it.
Yep.
But they say it's for safety. As far as Crawford Street, Wes is correct, but it's 2 speed bumps. I do hope, City of Shelby, that you put up the kind of speed bumps like are around the Grand Center in the parking lot that are not quite the bumps, because these little rounded asphalt ones, you can't be going anything at all and not take a chance of knocking your front end out of line. I always have accused the front end repair people of being the ones promoting speed bumps for that very reason.
Okay. All right, now let's move on to our lightning round. Wes, what you got?
Well, Betsy, you've sort of glared at me a couple times today.
Oh, no.
It seems like politics really is just a bunch of partisan bickering anymore, and neither side wants to give credit to the other side for anything. So today, during my time, I want to take time to give credit to Democrat Governor Josh Stein. Last week, he held a press conference during which he praised the education investments in the budget, including teacher pay raises, investing in high-performing principals, and investments in teacher recruitment and retention. Let me quote him. "This budget represents an important step forward. It delivers the largest average teacher pay raise in North Carolina in 20 years and the largest increase in starting teacher pay in 50 years. So thank you, Governor Stein, for recognizing and supporting the work of the Republican-led General Assembly."
All right, Andy, what's
Well,
tickling your fancy?
Well, since we've been in Tennessee with Dolly, I thought I'd stay there. Lodge cast iron pans are made in the eastern part of Tennessee, and it is a family-owned business. There are approximately 76 stockholders. They meet once a year. Every 5 years, they invite the extended family, all expenses paid by the lodge company, to come and visit and see the roots. And they come from literally all over the country to tap back into their roots.
That's cool.
So I thought that was the coolest thing I've ever heard. So, you know, small business can survive
And I do
thrive.
have some of those pans. All right, Mike, what about you?
Well, I'm going to go on a different thing. There are 12 U.S. Senate races this year that are competitive enough that if they fall enough in the Democrats' direction, they could actually win the majority in the U.S. Senate. While it still doesn't seem extremely likely, it could happen. The most important Senate race, according to most things I read right now, is the one in Michigan, where a Democrat, Gary Peters, did not run, and a DSA-style candidate is the Democrat candidate, and he is most likely to lose. North Carolina is most likely to flip on the other side, and it looks like that at this point in time, there will either be 50 or 51, possibly 52, but probably 50 or 51 Republicans. 50 leaves them majority because they hold the presidency and the vice president breaks the tie. But it is close, it appears, as we now go into Labor Day next week, and campaign season's on us.
Yep.
It is. And mine pertains to President Trump. As you all go to the grocery stores and into the restaurants and buy your gas, remember that President Trump has made more than $1 billion in crypto sales during his first year and his second term as president. Have you made that much money in your paycheck? Thank you for being with us, and I hope you'll come back next week for another edition of Political Smackdown.